I'm still really bullish on Bitcoin. I think between now and year end, I think it's still possible to be 200,000 and longer term, a million for Bitcoin. Ethereum, I think, has more upside because and that's why we call it the biggest macro trade over the next 10, 15 years, because of both Wall Street building on the blockchain and AI as well. I think Ethereum between now and year end, so let's say Bitcoin is 2x upside from here. I think Ethereum is more than 2x upside from here. But longer term, in the BitMine presentation, we pulled some work from Mosaics, and let's say it's 5-year view for Ethereum. It comes to around $60,000 per ETH.
Markets often move on hype, but conviction comes from data and experience, and few in crypto have that, like Tom Lee, co-founder of Fundstrat. Known for bold calls that once sounded crazy, Lee stayed bullish even during the 2018 crash, and years later, when Bitcoin hit $60,000, his predictions earned new respect. Now, he's back with even bigger targets, seeing Bitcoin on track to $200,000 soon, and possibly $1 million in the long run. But it's Ethereum that he calls the biggest macro trade of the next decade, fueled by Wall Street adoption, stablecoin growth, and AI integration with blockchain. Lee believes Ethereum could even surpass Bitcoin, marking its most important cycle yet. His message is clear. The crypto market is still just getting started.
I think ETH lagged last 5 years because it went through a big transition. I mean, it's
Still paying taxes on your crypto gains? What if you didn't have to? With ITrust Capital, you can buy and sell crypto inside a tax-advantaged IRA, giving you a smarter way to grow your portfolio without worrying about capital gains tax. That's why they're the #1 crypto IRA platform in America, with billions in tax-advantaged transactions. There are multiple ways to fund your account. You can make a contribution, transfer an existing IRA, or roll over an old 401k or employer plan. You'll get access to a wide range of digital assets, low fees, and 24/7 trading, all backed by secure, one-to-one asset ownership with institutional-grade custody. And if you have questions, ITrust Capital offers 100% US-based customer support with real people ready to help. Click the link, use code DOSE7, and get your $100 funding bonus today. Start building your crypto wealth, tax-advantaged, with ITrust Capital.
ETH now is not the same ETH it was in 2017 because, they moved to proof of stake, and then they had many changes implemented and maybe guided by the Ethereum Foundation, that were not necessarily friendly to improving the economics of Ethereum itself. But I think that a lot of that changed this year. So I think Ethereum sort of adjusted its own internal problems, including improving the inflation rate, etc. So there's not too much ETH floating. And then the second thing that, of course, has happened, because there's two other tailwinds for ETH, is that stablecoins have really gained a lot of popularity, and it's caught the notice of Wall Street, but it's also caught the notice of the U.S. administration, which signed the Genius Act, and now the SEC signed Project Crypto, which is really impelling the financial system, like Wall Street, basically, to start building on the blockchain. And the third, of course, which is coming, but I think people are recognizing it, that in the world of LLMs and agentic AI, especially with real-world robots, AI is going to become a lot more sophisticated. Because remember, if you're training AI on vision, like actually not just internet and Tinder and Facebook messages, but actually like it's in the real world, you're increasing a vastly amount of information, but then it's also making it harder to verify and secure, who's really issuing instructions. And that's where blockchains and zero knowledge proof become important. Well, that's a third sort of story arc. All of this should benefit the most reliable smart contract platform, which is Ethereum. And it has zero downtime. Of course, it needs a lot of work to scale. It's scaling, but, to be super scaling. But what I found, especially because I've, been involved with crypto a long time, the crypto community kind of abandoned Ethereum in their minds because they thought faster was better, which was why Solana and Sui, and especially when you had the meme coins, those looked like the place where the economics were the best. But if Wall Street is the reason we're going to see the next wave, Wall Street wants 100% uptime. They don't care about speed because they can build on the layer twos. And they actually find staking actually a virtue, because that means the power law comes into effect. If Goldman stakes enough ETH, they have a positive voice on Ethereum itself and how they upgrade.
Mhm.
So I think that, and like I was just at Salt, Wyoming last week, and I talked to a lot of the OGs I know, and I'm like, ETH's been kind of dead and price for 5 years, and it has been. And I said, is ETH actually inferior technologically, or do you think it's just the price action stunk and that's why you don't care about it? And almost all of them said it's because the price hasn't done well, especially compared to Bitcoin, that they don't care about it. So I think that's why this year and what's happening recently is actually an important moment for ETH, because it is galvanizing the community again. And of course, if we can stay above the new highs, which is above 4,800, as you know, that means we could have a really big cycle for ETH.
But looking at stablecoins, why would ETH win this war? You got Ton, you got Tether just announced the launch of Stable a few weeks ago. Why do you think ETH will be the king there?
Well, I'm kind of working a little backwards, but so I'm just going to give you some round numbers, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but US dollar is 27% of global GDP, and it's roughly 55% of central bank reserves. And it's like 80% of financial transaction pair, like more oil is quoted in dollar than other quotes. And like stock prices are quoted in dollars. But in the stablecoin world, the US dollar pair, actually in crypto transactions, is like 99% dominance. Almost everything in crypto is quoted in dollars. So really, when we think about the future stablecoin, it's really the dollar becoming the stable coin of choice. And, that's because everyone likes getting stuff quoted in dollars, and people like to use dollars. I mean, whether it's a merchant in India or Turkey or someone in Dubai buying real estate with, actually Tether. So if the dollar is the quoted pair in the future of stable coins, then the market share that we've seen up until this date might shift, because as you know, 80% of stablecoin transactions do take place outside the US. And it's been mostly Tether, and Tether on Tron, or Tether on, on other coins, on other blockchains. But I think that the U.S. government wants to have a say in this stablecoin future. And so I think it's going to be more about compliant blockchains where the dollar stablecoin is going to be allowed to operate.
Tom Lee says 2024 was a turning point for Ethereum. With proof of stake, fixed supply issues, and the rise of stablecoins, Ethereum is no longer just speculation, it's becoming the backbone of finance and AI systems. He believes if ETH can hold above its $4,800 high, it could surge to $15,000 soon and even $60,000 within 5 years, with a real chance of flipping Bitcoin's market cap.
Like, so someone has a Robinhood account or a Charles Schwab account, and they can buy a stock that owns in that company's treasury a crypto token. So in other words, MicroSailor is an example. Like when you buy MicroStrategy, you're basically buying Bitcoin. And that's because they are using all their excess liquidity to buy Bitcoin. Many people will say, Tom, why do we even need to own MicroStrategy when I can buy an ETF? Okay. The answer is really comes down to two simple things. Number one, the institutional equity world, when a fund manager is trying to outperform or find alpha, they're unlikely to be buying a Bitcoin ETF. So their only way to get exposure to Bitcoin is to buy infrastructure companies related to Bitcoin, but the simplest is buying MicroStrategy. And that's why MicroStrategy, in terms of Bitcoin held, is actually bigger than any Bitcoin ETF, I believe, or maybe they're second to BlackRock, but they're basically larger. But the second reason is that a properly run crypto treasury is growing your holdings of the crypto faster. Well, faster than an ETF, because an ETF by nature doesn't grow your ETF holdings, your token holdings. MicroStrategy calls it levered Bitcoin. But I'll give you an example of how their math worked. When they started their crypto treasury in August 2020, MicroStrategy had $1 worth of Bitcoin per share. The stock was $13 at the time. By the time you got to July 2027, so roughly 2025, 5 years later, they had $227 of Bitcoin held per share. So they grew it by, hundreds, multiple. The price of Bitcoin from August 2020 to July, let's say 5 years later, went from 11,000 to 118,000. So it was an 11 times return. MicroStrategy's stock went from $13 to almost 400. So it went up by more than 30 times. Only 11 times was explained by the Bitcoin price increase, which means their treasury strategy, which was properly executed, had an implied benefit of a 20x on the stock price. So a really well-run crypto treasury is going to be a really high-performing stock. In fact, Michael Saylor just posted a chart, since 2020, he's outperformed every single stock of the Mag 7. He's even outperformed NVIDIA during that time frame.
Where do you see crypto in the next 6 to 12 months, and looking at Bitcoin, ETH, and the rest of the market?
I'm still really bullish on Bitcoin. I think between now and year end, I think it's still possible to be 200,000, and longer term, $1 million for Bitcoin. Ethereum, I think, has more upside because and that's why we call it the biggest macro trade over the next 10, 15 years, because of both Wall Street building on the blockchain and AI as well. So you have like sort of two cohorts actually probably deciding that it's really additive, right? Remember, the financial system is half of the economy. And in the stock market, financials are trading at a lower valuation than tech. So I think financials can re-rate in that world. But Ethereum is sort of the network value beneficiary. So I think Ethereum between now and year end, so let's say Bitcoin is 2x upside from here. I think Ethereum is more than 2x upside from here. But longer term, in the BitMine presentation, we pulled some work from Mosaics. And let's say it's 5-year view for Ethereum, it comes to around $60,000 per ETH. So a lot of upside in the next 5 years.
Didn't you say you wouldn't be surprised there's a 50-50 chance that Ethereum could flip Bitcoin as network value?
That's right. So I think that there's maybe at least a 50% chance Ethereum's network value flips Bitcoin.
But RWAs, which is not getting enough credit, not getting enough discussion, isn't that how we get to 100, 200 trillion, Web3 ecosystem?
My friends that are in the real estate industry think there is a lot of value that's unlocked if you do tokenize, real estate RWA onto the blockchain, because you improve all elements of how you authenticate and actually conduct a real estate transaction to how you track and record the prices, which allows you to then create more liquidity, which, as you know, in price discovery sometimes means higher prices. And of course, you would eliminate what are today's structural imbalances in real estate prices. It's a huge deal. But I would say one of the things is, like, to me, that's also when society sees the benefits of tokenizing, right? It actually probably reduces friction. I mean, I think it's really important, whatever future that crypto is building, that, they do think about wealth inequality. Not that it's a targeted thing, but it's important to make sure that we're not creating greater wealth inequality. And I think crypto is the opposite. Anybody can buy crypto. And I think that's why it's, to me, it's actually a democratizing wealth creation.
Tom Lee believes Bitcoin is on track for $200,000 in this cycle, with a longer-term path to $1 million as institutions adopt it and the world looks for alternatives to traditional finance. But his bigger call is on Ethereum. He sees $15,000 in the near term, $60,000 within 5 years, and even a real chance of flipping Bitcoin's market cap. These predictions aren't based on hype but on decades of analyzing macro trends, capital flows, and technology shift. Whether you agree or not, Lee's track record makes his view worth considering. The real question is, will Bitcoin secure its role as digital gold? And can Ethereum rise to become the backbone of finance and AI? Do you think Bitcoin can realistically reach $200,000 this cycle? Could Ethereum actually surpass Bitcoin as the top digital asset? Let me know in the comments. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.